Before we get started with the content, I have two announcements. The first is, if you're subscribed and turn on my notifications, you have entered for a chance to win a PlayStation 5. That's right, any member that has my subscription and my notification bell turned on has a chance to win a PS5. It's coming out in less than a month, guys, so make sure you get those subs and noti gangs in. But on top of that, for the first time in the history of my career, we are dropping a high-end clothing line. It's only going to be available for a week, and it's in the description down below. It's TheFlightMike.com, and there you can find hoodies, t-shirts, masks. It's limited edition. It's only going to be here for a week, but it's a fantastic way to say, hey, I've been a part of this channel since the very beginning. I copped the first piece of merch that TheFlightMike dropped. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, we have another rumor that we need to dive into, and this is going to be one of the dominating rumors of the offseason. I've already made a couple of videos on this. I'm seeing a lot of videos on this. I'm even seeing YouTubers today making videos saying that the Houston Rockets are definitively going to trade Russell Westbrook and James Harden, or one or both or the other. I don't really know which one they're going for, but rumors have been running rampant, and either star getting traded seems plausible at this point. I've made videos on Russell Westbrook, and the reason why the Rockets would trade Russell Westbrook is obvious, because Russell Westbrook just didn't fit in with James Harden. True, he's had a very decent regular season, and he fit in okay in Mike D'Antoni's offensive scheme, not nearly as well as Chris Paul, but if we're being honest, it doesn't seem like Russell Westbrook is the ideal running mate for James Harden. Now, there's a couple of factors that are going to come into play, whether the Houston Rockets are going to be able to get another star to help these two, or if they're going to have to trade away one of these two. But so far, all signs seem to be pointing towards the fact that they might trade one of these two players. And my guess would personally be Russell Westbrook, because the Houston Rockets absolutely love James Harden. Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni might no longer be on the Houston Rockets anymore, but it doesn't matter because James Harden means so much to the city of Houston. I just can't see a scenario where the Rockets say, okay, we're giving up on James Harden, even though they could get some good assets in return. Now, in the past, if you ask me, the number one thing that was holding back the Houston Rockets from contending for an NBA championship and putting together a really good team was the fact that they were very reluctant to dip into the luxury tax. And that was probably Daryl Morey's biggest challenge. That's why you saw players like Daniil House and Ben McLemore, and then you saw him trade Clint Capella away, and why you guys saw all these crazy science experiments. It's mainly because the Houston Rockets weren't down to pay luxury tax, and the reason why is because the owner of the Houston Rockets, Tillman Fertitta, didn't want to dive into the luxury tax after making a huge investment in a basketball team, which is typically a negative investment unless if your team is contending. Like the Golden State Warriors, for example, they were not supposed to be as good as they were over the past decade. The owner, Joe Lacob, bought them at the best time he possibly could have ever bought a team, and he got really freaking lucky because by the time he bought them, he already started seeing a return on his investment with Steph Curry's emergence with Klay Thompson. But in addition to that, you saw them eventually get to 73 wins. And then you saw the Golden State Warriors brand become more and more prominent. They won a bunch of championships. And as a result, the franchise is one of the most expensive franchises now in the entire NBA. They opened up a brand new basketball arena, Chase Center, although it wasn't opened with such a great welcome because of the injuries to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. But the Warriors are in a good position to rebuild. They have the number 2 overall pick, but we're not talking about the Warriors in this video. We're talking about the Houston Rockets. The reason why Tillman Fertitta just didn't want to pay the luxury tax makes a lot of sense if you think about it. You see, by getting out of Russell Westbrook's contract, the Houston Rockets will be able to hopefully bring in another star to pair in with James Harden. The existing rumor is Joel Embiid, and there's been other players that have floated around because I do like the idea of pairing James Harden with Joel Embiid because Joel Embiid is probably the most talented front court mate that James Harden would have that probably would embrace his role a lot better than Dwight Howard did. In addition to this, there was a rumor going around that the Houston Rockets would potentially trade James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers, which I think is just absolutely bizarre. In my mind, the most logical trade rumor would probably be Russell Westbrook getting traded to the New York Knicks. Now, this is interesting because the owner of the Houston Rockets officially came out and made a statement on whether the Houston Rockets are going to trade James Harden or Russell Westbrook. This is where I want you guys to put on your cap detection hats because it's very possible that he's just trying to give the Houston Rockets following and fans a lot of false hope. So when he was asked if they could trade Russell Westbrook or trade James Harden, he said, you have James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and you have almost 90% of your salaries tied up in them and Eric Gordon. But anytime you have players like Eric, PJ Tucker, James, and Russell, there's no reason to blow up your roster. This is still our window the next couple of years. James and Russell are in their early 30s. We're not blowing up anything. We plan on contending. I always said you want to set yourself up to be one of the top 4 teams in your conference each year, and then it takes a little luck to win. You look at every year, it always takes a little luck. So we're going to set ourselves up to make the moves to be one of the top teams. We're going to do whatever we have to do to win. I can promise that to my fans and compete for the NBA championship this year. I want you guys to take a moment and comment in the comment section down below. Is the Houston Rockets owner being sincere, or do you think this is a bunch of BS and maybe a smokescreen? So comment smokescreen if you think this is a smokescreen, and comment sincere if you think he's being sincere. And I'm going to give you some time to think about this.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it!
Now, look, here's some things you have to bear in mind. The Rockets had the NBA's third oldest team during the regular season, behind only the Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks. And although the Lakers and the Bucks also made the playoffs, Houston had the oldest team during the postseason. Now, what's really fascinating about this entire scenario is I don't really trust Tillman Fertitta when it comes to managing his roster, and I really hope he doesn't plan on making his own personnel decisions himself, because about a year ago, the reason why he decided to trade Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook is he came in and he said that Chris Paul's contract was the worst contract that he's ever seen in his entire life. Now, look, at the end of the day, do I think Tillman Fertitta is being sincere about keeping Harden and Westbrook together? Well, I think it depends. It depends on how badly Harden wants Westbrook to join, and I think they're going to make a decision based off of that. If James Harden wants Russell Westbrook there, well, the Houston Rockets are in a situation where they'll do anything to appease their star player. If their star player says, hey, I'm happy with Russell Westbrook as my running mate, keep him, they're going to keep him. Even though he's definitely a downgrade from Chris Paul, James Harden didn't really like Chris Paul that much towards the end of their tenure together, but he is BFFs with Russell Westbrook, so if Harden wants Westbrook to stay, then I expect them to stay. Now, there are a bunch of other players that could be traded. Eric Gordon could still be traded. Eric Gordon and Russell Westbrook could be packaged together if James Harden isn't very fond of Russell Westbrook anymore. It, at the end of the day, depends on their star player. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this rumor. Aside from that, I'm your boy, TheFlightMike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.